So for starters, we had Chase on, in October,
Yeah, yeah.
and unfortunately, that footage never made it.
One of the best stories from that was there was a kid that his parents' RV broke down in the parking lot. And so the kid came in and he's like a 5-year-old kid and he's like bullying me while I was waiting to get on your podcast.
What was this? This was you said the parking lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I was inside, indulging
Sure.
in all of your charcuterie you left for me.
Right.
And yeah, I had this 5-year-old kid bullying me in there.
So how did it pan out?
I had to kick his ass.
We'll make sure we cut that one out. I don't think beating up 5-year-olds is the image we're going for, but I get it. I get it. Sometimes those 5-year-olds can be rowdy. I have a short story for you, and we can get started. I was in a liquor store. This had to be about 6 or 7 years ago. I was in a liquor store, and I'm going through, and I'm picking up a couple bottles of liquor and some beer, and there's this little 5-year-old. He was even younger. He's probably 4, maybe 3. And he's opening up all the refrigerators, and it's summertime, so every time he opens up the refrigerator, the glass fogs over, and he's just having the time of his life, and his mom's like an aisle over. And his mom calls his name and is like, get over here, what are you doing? Because, the kid's just doing whatever the heck he wants. And she goes, I said get over here. And he looks at me, and he looks up at me, and I look at him and I go, you should listen to your mom. And he slowly closes the refrigerator door, and he starts to walk away. And I look over, and out of the corner of my eye, I turn around, and he had turned back, and he's flipping me the bird, looks me dead in the face, and goes, you can lick my butthole.
Whoa.
I didn't even know what to say. I was like, what?
And go to jail.
Totally punked me out, right? This is a little kid. I'm thinking, man, somebody needs to talk to this kid because, he's going to be a bad kid. And, of course, his mom, heard it, and she looks at me like she's just, totally embarrassed, but she didn't say anything about it, so.
Nah, if that kid were smart, he would have made a scene, pointed at you, and been like, that guy wanted to lick my butthole.
Yeah. I think it was more of an FU remark, but that is what he said. You can lick my butthole. And I was like, Jesus, you gotta be kidding me.
You got a question.
Made me feel
what's
old.
the mindset of the parents who are bringing their kids to liquor stores?
Right. Well, I think that was part of it. It's like, what do you expect? You got a 4-year-old kid in the liquor store opening up beer coolers. And, when I tell him, hey, you should probably listen to your mom, he tells me to fuck off. So anyway.
Yeah, good kids.
Happy to have you on here. Sorry about the 5-year-old in the parking lot of the last podcast, but the worst part about that footage not coming out, I mean, you were one of my favorite guests. Obviously, for those of you out there, Chase Cangelosi with All City still?
Yes. Yeah,
All City Realty, keeping it alive. And we obviously had Chase on. He had a lot of good content. And then I work out at a gym where every single morning I am graced with his presence of a very large banner of himself, promoting himself and everything. So, again, we're all about getting people, to promote themselves and get out there and everything. The mantra in the last couple of weeks has been, you can be the best real estate agent or lender, or we've had financial advisors on here, builders. You can be the best at what you do, but if you're not known and no one knows who you are, that kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah. Grant Cardone will say that over and over. Best known is better than best.
Yeah, well, and you're good at it. I mean, for all jokes aside, I mean, that banner, I see it every single morning, and it's a testament to, in my opinion, the importance of just being known, and you clearly feel the same way. How has the banner been working out for you?
To be fair, the banner hasn't actually resulted in business, but I've had plenty of friends who I didn't realize went to the gym taking pictures with it. I had other agents take pictures with it. Funny story, I actually had an agent I did a deal with. I'll put him on blast. His name's Craig Gilson with Realty Austin.
Okay.
He called me on closing day. That was one of our buyers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember Craig.
Yeah, when the day they closed, Craig called me. He's like, dude, I didn't realize I was working with a celebrity this whole time. And I was like, oh, do you listen to the radio? He's like, the radio? And he's like, no, I got a Lifetime. There's a banner in there with your face on it. Did you know that? And I was like, did I know that?
Right.
$10,000. Yeah, I think I knew about it.
Well, you see that, Craig? Now we're really calling you out because now you know 2 celebrities, and we got to get you on the podcast, and I'm going to be on the hunt for you at the gym now.
Yeah.
We'll find you. But yeah, I mean, the point is that being out there, being known, it works. You know, my short story that actually happened to me today is I have a gentleman that we have approved who's writing an offer, and I met this guy at a I don't even know what you would call it. It was for an elementary school. One of my dear friends is a teacher at an elementary school and wanted me to come in for career day.
Oh no.
And it was a volunteer thing, and I went out there, and surprisingly enough, one of the guys who does construction work for a gas company, he came in as well and did a little thing about what, I mean, this is literally for maybe 6 or 7 year olds, and we're doing his purchase, and that was probably 5 or 6 years ago.
That's insane.
And so to the point of your banner, it's like you never know where you're going to be or who you're going to be in front of, and you've just got to be known. And he even admitted to me, and I swear this was today. He goes, I really appreciate you helping me out with all of this. And he's like, I'll be honest, man, the whole reason that I'm doing this is because I'm just we did that kind of thing together at this little elementary school, and he's like, I'm sure I have other friends and family that might be lenders and things like that, but the truth is like you're out there, man. You are everywhere, and like I knew I needed to buy a home, and I knew I needed a loan, and the first person I thought of was you.
That's awesome.
And it's like, again, you might think that your friends remember, oh, so and so, we should talk to him. He's a real estate agent, or oh, Matt's a lender, but it really is one of those things. You've just got to be out there all the time, because even people you think know what you do, it's not the first thing they're thinking of. It's top of mind. And then from there, yeah, it's like, yeah, I see Matt. I see him everywhere, and he's a good dude, and I know him, and I want to do business with him. So, yeah, I like what you're doing with the banners and the radio and coming on here. I think it's good for everybody.
Yeah, that's great. I think, what's that statistic? Like the average person knows 12 realtors.
I bet.
Yeah, so it's like you can't compete with everybody's friends, but if you're in front of that client the whole time, and also the amount of marketing that I put out just to market myself as an agent, I think sellers see that and they say, well, if he's doing that much for himself, what's he going to do for my house?
Sure.
So then when I show up to their listing consultation and explain how I'm going to have the afternoon radio DJ on 101X doing a whole monologue about this house to promote the open house on Sunday, where we're going to have an ice cream truck sitting in front of the house, or a snow cone truck, then they're like, oh, wow, this guy's
going to drive traffic.
Going to try to, bring some traffic into my overpriced listing.
I love it. Well, I mean, that is one of the first questions I always ask is like, this is kind of designed to, in addition to help business owners showcase themselves, I kind of try to go down a little bit of like an entrepreneurial road, in the sense of we've kind of covered a little bit of it. Let's do a deeper dive. Like, what is it that you're doing right now that seems to be working for your business? Not just real estate, but just treat it as a, business in general. You've said radio. We've talked about banners. What other things are you doing outside of those two things that seem to be working, that maybe a newer agent that hasn't been in the business as long as you might say, like, oh, I want to hear what Chase has to say. Maybe he's got some nuggets.
Yeah, I wish I had more nuggets. But honestly, the thing that's worked the best for me since I moved here in August of 2020, when I didn't know anybody, still during pandemic season, the thing that's worked since the start was going to networking events, meeting people, and getting them to somehow follow my business Instagram, where I'm continuously putting out content. So when I first moved here, I was going to every networking event I could, and these weren't business networking events, because I found that all those people are just out for themselves, and they don't even listen to what you're saying. They just want to talk about themselves. So I was going to paddleboarding, karaoke, wine Wednesday, hot pot night. I think I went to a couple of goat yogas.
Yoga.
Yeah, gym classes. Oh, what else did I get? Oh, bowling team, kickball team, and just making connections and trying to make genuine friend connections. Because, I was after the same thing. I said, well, if I make friends, they'll turn into clients as well.
Sure.
As long as you ensure that they keep seeing that you're an active agent. Because, chances are these people have also met other realtors, and they want to see that I'm doing, more business with them, that I'm more knowledgeable.
Right. Well, you mentioned that you just got here in 2020. I guess, for those that don't know, tell us a little bit about where you came from, what you were doing there, and all that kind of stuff. build some credibility for the people.
Credibility. Here we go. Yeah, my humble beginnings begin in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Southeastern Louisiana University. Right after my no, it was towards the end of my sophomore year of college. I was bartending at this catering company, and I was working at an event. This guy happened to mention that he was a commercial real estate agent, and I said, "Oh, that's really cool. I mean, I like the idea of real estate. My dad owned a couple rental houses. He called himself a slumlord,
Okay.
and I said, do you have any marketing internships?" And he's like, "Oh, well, here's my broker's business card. You can send him an email. We'll see." Had a couple interviews with them. They realized, oh, he's actually in college. He's not just working for this catering company professionally.
Right.
And then so they hired me on as like a marketing grunt, just pretty much data entry / making brochures, the easy things. And then I was able to grow from that. Got my license maybe 2 weeks after starting there. So then I was able to kind of participate on some deals for the next 2 years. Then towards the end of college, I said I knew my whole life I wanted to move out of Louisiana. And I really I have my heart set on the West Coast somewhere.
Okay.
And I wanted to do marketing for a real estate-ish business. Because I said my whole life, I was like, oh, I don't want to be in commission-based sales. That sounds horrible. Here I am now.
Right.
So now working on commission-based sales, I only want to be in commission-based sales. So I found this company out of Seattle called Fly Homes. They had probably 30 jobs open. I saw that they had just gotten a recent round of funding. And I said, you know what, let me just throw my hat in the ring here. This could be a very long-drawn story, so I'm going to kind of skip to it.
Take your time. We can edit it out if we have to.
I could turn this into a 3-hour story, but about how I got this job. But more important, what I did in this job was for 2 years, I was the face of our offline marketing. So I was going to events, meeting people. I was hosting home buying classes. I was hosting parties. I was had booths at festivals. Sometimes I was handing out flyers on the street outside of Amazon offices. Anything I could do to try to bring in clients to our offline marketing. By the end, that included like buying the whole house a round of drinks during like at a bar, like during a UFC fight or during trivia nights or sporting events. So I was able to kind of make the most fun out of this job. But in the end, the work I did was only 2% of our marketing budget, and it created about 26% of our monthly clients.
Okay.
So after making this company over 87, I think it's exactly 87 closed deals in 2 years from my clients, I was like, why am I not doing this for myself? Even if I just had, 20% of this, I'd be just fine on my own.
Makes sense.
That was kind of the goal. And then my plan was, I was like, all right, my lease is going to be ending in Seattle. I wanted to move to Austin anyway. It was kind of on my radar. Wanted to move back to the South. And coincidentally, the best thing for my career happened, and I got laid off the same month I was planning on quitting.
Okay.
Got a great severance check and unemployment.
Right.
So when I moved here, I was able to have kind of a segue of at least a little bit of cash flow as I was moving into starting my own business. Because even if you're the most knowledgeable agent out there, you're still going to need some time to ramp up and meet people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we talk about is that I think a lot of times you see real estate agents that maybe they know it subconsciously, but it's not in the forefront of their mind that you're a self-employed business owner as a realtor. Mm-hmm. You really are. I mean, you might work for a brokerage, but it's really on you.
Yeah. I'm putting someone on blast, but I had a client the other day use the phrase, "This is why you make the big bucks." And I gave them the sideways look like, I just drove from Slaughter Lane to Georgetown to show you a $1,300 rental.
Right.
What big bucks are we talking about?
Well,
after gas, I could make a whopping $120 on this deal.
But it's for the long game, right? I mean, the rental thing, I always tell people, because I have friends, obviously I'm not a real estate agent, but I do run into people who are like, I'm just going to rent. And it's like, listen, even if you're going to rent, talk to a real estate agent. They can help you. They can make sure that you're getting the best deal because, for those of you that are watching that aren't in the real estate business, please consult a real estate agent, even for your rental, because not only are they going to help, but they want to be there when you decide you no longer want to rent.
Yeah, I don't think there's any agent. Well, then again, I can't speak for anyone, but I would never be pushy with a client when it comes to a rental. They all basically pay the same thing. Also, I'm not pushy with anything. Um, but uh, the thing is, I want to earn that client's trust in the long term.
Sure.
I mean, we just closed with a client who rented from me 2 years ago.
Exactly.
I hadn't had any communication with him or his girlfriend in 2 years, and they contacted me again and say, "Hey, remember when you rented us that house and you said when it's time to buy, we need to contact you again?" And I was like, "Well yeah, I do."
Yeah, I know real estate agents that, the vast majority of their business is built on the relationship that starts with, rental. And as far as even leads, they purchase rental leads. That is like part of their business model, is getting in front of, even when they're doing well, if you will, they consider that the like new business portion of, their business, because they're so confident in creating that relationship through the rental that they will come back and purchase with them. And it seems to be fruitful. So there's a nugget.
Yeah. Also, analyzing what the client really wants. So I received a referral from another agent. I'm not going to put her on blast because I don't want to give her a fee on this. Um, but the the client had rented a place through her previous. No, sorry. The client's friend had rented a place through her. And this client said, "Hey, I'm looking to rent my house." And this agent said, "Oh, I don't work with rentals. Let me introduce you to my friend Chase." So of course I said, "Great, yeah. Tell me about what we're looking to do." So she said, "I have two houses. I want to rent out both of them long term." And I was like, "Great. So these are rental listings, not
Right.
working with her as a tenant. These already pay more. Plus, I get my sign in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
More reason to reach out to more people. I get renters who call me directly." Um, so it turns out we rented one of them. I represented both sides of the deal. I put the house on Zillow. It took about a week, and I had a tenant who called me directly. So not only did I make that deal, but then they decided the other house they would rather just go ahead and put it on the market for sale. Got a $600,000 listing out of it.
Right.
And as soon as that house under contract, they're getting pre-approved to buy their next home as well. And then they want to start working in flipping and development and actually build out a huge portfolio from this.
So what's the mindset, do you think, of an agent that's like, oh, I don't mess with rentals?
I think they're personally busy, and
Mm-hmm.
which is fair. Everyone gets busy, um, even if it's in their own personal life, or they're saying, "I'm kind of in it more for the short term gain, and I'm not in this for the long term." Um, because I mean, it's fair. Rentals don't, working with a tenant doesn't pay much, but you're
Right.
earning that relationship forever.
Yeah, you're hoping that it pans out into something bigger.
So, especially a lease listing, because you got to prove an investor. They already own at least one house, probably more. And you never know what else they're thinking. If they get that one leased and break even or cash flow on that mortgage, they might have the cash to go purchase the next one already.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So before we get away from anything that you're kind of doing or that's been working for you, is there anything else you want to cover? Because I've got another question that I always ask all of the people who come in here, and we can move on. It's up to you.
oh, let's just keep going with the questions.
So one of the things that I've been asking everybody that seems to be creating really good content is, what is something that you wish that you could just basically put out there to all of your current buyers and or sellers or renters right now, that you kind of want everyone to know, that seems to be popping up and you're like, how do people not know this?
Hmm. Hmm. I would say I find yeah, I probably what I touched on when I first came in was I've noticed that a lot of people have told me, "Hey, I'm interested in buying a house. I don't think I have the money for it. I'm not sure if I qualify yet. Also, it seems like the interest rates are really high, and it seems like sellers are doing a lot of price drops. Maybe I shouldn't be buying if people are dropping the price of the house." And I mean, I think, like I was saying earlier, the first step of buying a house is saying, "I want to buy a house."
Right.
And if you can look at again, looking out at long term, real estate, just like the stock market, my stockbroker used this analogy. It's a yo-yo on a staircase. You can look since the beginning of time. The price of land has only gone up in value. I mean, land itself is decreasing every year.
Right.
So naturally, it has to. Not to mention, as population moves here, which if you look at, just simply Tesla, Facebook, Google, Apple, Indeed, Samsung, SpaceX, Oracle, just those companies alone, over the next 10 years need to hire 1 million new jobs that are moving to this area. Well, that's a, 10% population boom each year.
Right.
So, yes, sure, right now, while rates are super high, it makes it uncomfortable for someone to purchase right now. But sellers are offering great discounts and incentives to combat that. And you just have to look at it as a long-term gain. So sure, my house that I purchased last year is probably worth the same as it was last year, despite that I've put in about $50,000 worth of renovations. But I'm not selling it tomorrow.
Right.
I'm probably going to wait, minimum 5-10 years before I do that. Maybe hold on to it forever, ideally. And so I'm just looking at the long-term gain here. So, while interest rates are high, you're able to get a better deal on the house. Sure,
yeah, there's always a seesaw effect between all of that. I mean, if rates drop, then property values are going to go up. If there's more inventory, that there's never a perfect storm. But you're the first person to bring that up in regards to you have to want to buy a house, because you've kind of given me an aha moment where I've worked with agents and this has been happening more so than ever, where the initial objection is, well, I don't know if I can buy. Well, then we overcome that. We put together a budget. We put something together that makes them feel comfortable. Then it turns into, well, there's nothing on the market that I really like. Then it turns into, well, everything I do like is too expensive. And there's always a new objection. And I think you've kind of hit something. Like I said, it's an aha moment for me where maybe we're just dealing with somebody who's just not ready to buy.
Yeah.
And I know it's our responsibility in our jobs to kind of uncover what that reason is. But man, I feel like now more than ever, I'm talking to way more clients that have more excuses, not to say no, but to continue to go, maybe, 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 maybe. Because like as salespeople, we obviously love hearing yes, and we can handle no, but maybe just drives us crazy, right? Like,
yeah, there's nothing worse than them putting out a question and not getting a response. It's like, great, now I have to follow up for the end of time.
right. Or just saying like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I can afford to buy. I'm not sure if I'm ready. I don't know if I can afford it. And then overcoming that objection. And then there's something new. And then there's something new. And again, I know this is like part of sales. I'm sure someone's sitting there and being like, you should take my course. But yeah, I'm seeing it more now than ever. And it's a great thing that I'm definitely going to think more about, where it's like, buyers, if you're out there, like, do you really want to buy? Are you interested in buying because like maybe grandma told you to or something? Like, what is your real reasoning? Because let's face it, like somebody who has a life event, whether it's a new job, a new, an addition to the family, God forbid a death, like people that are ready to buy, they're not hitting us with the kind of like, well, can I afford it? Or if there's a reason they're not buying, it's a hard no, and here's why. It's not like, well, I'm not sure. Should I wait? Like, I think a lot of maybe the should I waits are people who really just aren't ready. And for whatever reason, I mean, I would love for them to look inward and figure out why, because I promise it's not the things they're telling us. Because when we, kind of overcome the objection, there's a new one.
Yeah, and I think as realtors, I think I sometimes forget why people purchase homes to begin with. And I always relate it back to, okay, it's a money thing, get out of renting, start, putting your money back in your own pocket and all this. But I mean, there are so many expenses to owning a house that over the long term, let's say that house never appreciated in value, then yeah, you're going to spend a lot more
Sure.
to own than rent. But that being said, I think people's main motivation to buying a house is to settle down, put in their roots somewhere, and make this place their own. And I think people, since the beginning of time, have always wanted, a nest to call their own. And nobody likes moving. Nobody likes rent hikes. Nobody likes landlords. And so I think sometimes I forget the main reason why people want to purchase homes. and cloud it with all of this financial data that I've been learning for the last,
Well, maybe
6
they
years.
forget too. Because they get clouded with all of the stuff, It's like, guys, you wanted to buy a home because of what you just said. And yeah, I mean, maybe that's the answer. As salespeople, we need to, take some of the data out of it and say, look, like, why are you really doing this, money aside, and let's not forget about that, because at the end of the day, I think you would agree, especially on the real estate side, it's a little different on the money side because there's numbers and it's math, but I think a lot of people purchase emotionally when it comes to a home more than anything.
Yeah. I wish I could read minds and understand, everyone's personal situation. All I can get is what they're willing to tell me. But, I mean, there's not a day goes by where if I meet someone new and I mention I'm a realtor, they're going to ask that one question that they ask to every single realtor.
How's the market going right now?
How's the market? Yesterday, I met a neighbor of mine 2 doors down from me. He saw one of my open house signs in my garage because I was working in my garage. And he said, "Oh, are you a realtor?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course."
Right.
I'm thinking he's getting ready to sell his house. Let's go. And he said, "How's the market?" And I gave him a little brief explanation. He was like, "Okay, cool." And I want to just strangle him and say, "Why are you asking?"
Oh, I could tell you why. And this is what drives me crazy is it's like, I almost want to respond to when someone asks me, like, how's the market? I legitimately just want to say, well, how do you think it is? Because I feel like people are only asking, not only, but mainly asking because they want to see if it's going to validate what they think about the market, right? So that's one of the things I've always done is I kind of flip it on them and be like, oh, well, what are your thoughts on the market? Because that's just going to tell me right away who I'm dealing with. Because if I'm dealing with a guy who's looking for validation, he's going to be like, well, this is what I'm hearing and this is what I'm hearing. And, you can kind of get a feel for because if I would love this opportunity, but it doesn't present itself often. If you're like, well, what do you think of the market? Like, I have no idea. I really don't know. I'm just genuinely wondering because I'm thinking of selling my home. Right? Wouldn't that be fantastic?
I should probably turn it into a question instead, because usually I'll end with, "Oh, what makes you interested?"
Right.
And then they're like, "Well, just wanted to know."
Sure. I just wanted to see if the things that I've been telling my friends and family, that I'm not qualified to give advice on is correct or not.
That's true. That's why I named my monthly newsletter the Cocktail Party Real Estate News.
No, that's great. I love it.
Because it's always going to begin with, what are the stats? What did the ABOR president say about the stats? And then right after that is, what's my opinion on it? And what am I seeing from working with buyers and sellers? Then I throw in some fun stuff.
So we got a newsletter too. Newsletter, banner.
Okay. At minimum, we have social media going on. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Google My Business, Bumble.
Hey, let us know.
Yeah, and then...
Are you doing YouTube? You said YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube. I need to get more into it.
Okay.
Because right now it's just kind of a regurgitation of the videos I'm already posting. That
right.
YouTube Shorts I was doing every day for a while. Let's see. Then I got the monthly newsletter.
We got the banner at the gym.
I'm running... I think my radio ad currently plays 10 times a day. It's on 101X Radio Alt Rock. It plays during the time of 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay.
And then the afternoon DJ, CJ Morgan, has to plug me at least once per day. I can tell him what to say. Fun part is he is actually planning to be a home buyer himself.
Nice.
So we've kind of fabricated an extra little story to make it sound like we're actively shopping for a house.
Right.
He hasn't even gotten pre-approved yet. I hope he sees this, actually.
Let's get him on the podcast.
Yeah, he would love it.
Bring him on.
A comedian. But yeah, let's see. On top of that, another thing that's been hugely beneficial in my business is referrals from agents.
Right. Well, and you said the networking.
Yeah, so going to networking events all the time.
Anything you feel like you're missing? You could say
a podcast.
A podcast. There it is.
My business coach actually wants me to be doing.
Well, you're welcome on the show anytime, and I don't even have to be here. You let me know. We'll get you hooked up, and we'll get some content out for you.
We'll have to we need to think about some topics.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like there's always more I could be doing. I don't know. Should I be doing speaking gigs at schools and.
I had somebody tell me that they and I loved this one. And again, this is like I am the anti-scarcity mindset type of person, so I know he would not be mad about me bringing this up. But he had mentioned that he somewhat actively goes after recruiters because recruiters that are recruiting for employers, that have people coming from out of state has been a pretty good referral source for him. So, as a real estate agent, I would think, and I've even thought about it as a lender, like who do I know that is in the recruiting space? Because I want to know more of you.
Where you go to meet recruiters. We need to go to some job fairs.
Right?
So, at my last company, I used to assist with, we would sometimes have like a booth at a job fair, and I would assist with that entirely to go meet the other sponsors.
Gotcha.
Because they're other recruiters.
Right.
And then trying to take them out for coffee. I was also doing lunch and learns at companies, especially companies that have recently brought in, a lot of new talent to the area, and they wanted to basically just learn about how to buy a house.
Or even the rentals.
There's a lot of red tape to get into those, but those are great events if an agent can get in the door. Like if I could do a presentation, at Tesla or Oracle, something like that here, that would be worth thousands.
Yeah, no, for sure. What are the pain points right now, real estate wise, in this current market that you wish you could wave a magic wand and get rid of?
My active listings.
Okay.
So
talk about it.
We got really used to the simplicity of being a listing agent at the end of 2020 through mid 2022. It didn't matter what price you put the property on the market. It didn't matter what the property looked like, how terribly you marketed it. You could use your iPhone pictures. You were getting offers first weekend. And if you didn't in the first weekend, you send an email blast to every agent and say, hey, we didn't get any offers. And you're going to get one that day. So it was so easy to sell a property. I felt like and then when it came time for negotiations, your sellers were able to cross their arms and say, no, we'll do the very bare minimum.
Right.
When it comes to repairs and credits. And that's it. Take it or leave it, or we'll take one of our backup offers. And the buyers are so desperate to, purchase a home that they're like, oh, well, no, it's fine. We'll repair everything ourselves.
Right.
And of course, their agent's like, we finally got an offer accepted. You have to take it. So it was much easier to be a listing agent then, but there were far fewer listings to have. Whereas now buyer's agents have a lot more power. So I wish that it was easier to get showings on my listings. I'm putting out postcards. I'm doing open houses where I have 30 of my very highly branded signs around the neighborhood. I'm putting flyers on 200 doors before I do any open house, about 2 days before. Here I am hiring a snow cone truck to sit outside of the open house.
Yeah, I like that. I've seen
blast
that.
Hawaiian music. I'm willing to cater the open houses, anything to get people in the door now.
Sure.
And now I have the afternoon radio DJ talking about it on air.
What's crazy about it is, as a lender, it's difficult not now, but when I was talking to agents back when things were very, very, you wanted a listing. And it's one of those situations where I hate being right. And I can remember talking to agents like 2 or 3 years ago, and they'd be like, oh, no. You don't, I don't really need like a lender or a preferred lender because I just deal with listings and I don't even really want to deal with buyers. And I can remember it being like ew, like buyers are ew. And it's just so funny to me now, kind of hearing you say this, but really not because you weren't one of those. But there are agents out there that I know, and I won't, as you said, put any of them on blast. But I can just remember thinking, I've been doing this long enough that like this does not continue. And what are you going to do when it flips? Because, when I got into this business, it was somewhat similar to what I'm dealing. Average time on market was like 30, 45 days. And here you are as a listing agent calling your sellers pretty much like once a week, maybe every other week, to talk about a price improvement. And that is not a fun conversation to have. And so you've had agents that were just, I don't know what the word is. I wouldn't say lazy, but just got so complacent with finding a listing, listing it, not having to do much. There's really nothing to sell. As you said, like the buyers would come in and just agree to do everything and maybe even like throw in a dozen fresh baked cookies, like whatever it took to get the house. And it's just a complete polar opposite. Do you hear stories like that from other agents where they're really, really struggling, where before it was like a la-ti-da, I only do listings?
There's been plenty of agents that were very listing heavy, during the Wild West times of 2021, and they got very good at not answering the phone, not getting back to buyers agents who wanted to show the property, things like that. They just got very complacent. It was easy to sell the property, and now they're struggling a lot more. A lot of their listings are expiring.
How much of that do you think is because of the actual business itself in terms of the marketplace? Or how much of it do you think it is because of the mindset and attitude of the agent?
Hmm. Probably a little of both. You could be a really terrible agent and have a listing in 2021. It would sell. You could be the worst agent on earth.
The reason why I bring it up, it's like one of the rants that I did that, it'll be out here was part of my job is trying to find good partners that I can work with, right? And not all agents are alike, okay? And not all agents are good. I mean, same thing with lenders. And so I kind of look at the production of real estate agents on a semi-regular basis, and it's a little bit shocking to me sometimes where I know agents that were just absolutely killing it in 2020, 2021. And by killing it, I mean doing substantially better than like the majority of the pack of real estate agents in our local market. And now that things have kind of taken a little turn, some of these really heavy hitting agents have either come down to the level of what I would consider at the time were like good agents, not great, or they may even have dipped below good agents. And I deal with this, I have loan officers and have managed people in the past, and it's a cliche, right? Like everybody can be really, really good during good times. You don't question anything. You're like, yeah, I'm on the right path. But when things are tough, how well do you operate in your business? And that's the one thing. I mean, I don't think there's any right or wrong answer, but it's a topic I think about. And I even have talks with myself about like, if I was heavy on listings, for example, and everything was just coming to me really, really easy, and then all of a sudden things tighten up and now I need to find buyers and I need to retool my business. Am I hitting the ground running and evolving? Or am I like, oh, this market sucks. This is bullshit. And I'm just curious how many like really good agents have either hit the ground running and evolved or have kind of blamed it on the market and said, well, it's not me. It's the way things are.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can really do is when times are tough, you continue putting yourself out there. I mean, many agents made millions of dollars during, the financial crisis.
Yeah.
In 2008 to 12 because they continued to market and they had to meet by, clients where they're at. Either, maybe people are selling because they have to. Maybe people are buying because it's opportunistic. You just have to figure out how to pivot. But I feel like for you as a lender as well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure during 2021 when rates were sub 3%, I'm sure it's a lot easier to get people to refinance their house.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't focus on refinance outside of past clients or just straight referrals. So I didn't do any of that marketing, and it's kind of a nice segue into the next thing I was going to ask you is the reason that I did that is because it would have been easy to do. It would have been the low-hanging fruit, but in the long run, maintaining relationships with real estate agents is much more important to me than like going and tooling my business towards what would be more considered consumer direct. And so kind of to my next question, we've talked about mindset and all of those things. One of the things that you said right before we got on here that I wanted to touch on was, you said, hey, when I'm busy, I have the ability to post more things as far as content, and I've got more going on, and it's easier for me to promote myself when I'm busy. And I found that to be really interesting because when things were a little busier, getting in front of agents and saying, hey, how are you generating new business, right? Like you've got here's your pipeline, you're running your buyers, you've got your listings, but what are you doing to generate new business down the road? And it sounds like you did a fantastic job of continuing to get out there in front of potential new business while also managing the business that you currently had while you were busy. And I'm here to say, I know for a fact a lot of people didn't do that. They had their deals, they were making their money, and instead of going, okay, I've kind of buttoned everything up today, what am I doing to generate that new piece of business? They were like, I'm swamped, I'm too busy. I can't make that post. I can't go to that networking event. I can't distribute the 200 flyers. Why would I get the slushy truck or snow cone truck out? And all of those things kind of went to the wayside. And now they have the time and they're scrambling to do it. And again, hypothetically, is it possible maybe you have so much time on your hands because you didn't focus on new business when you were busy?
Definitely possible. Yeah, I mean, while I find it easier to do more marketing when I'm busy just because, well, I'm already at the showing, I'm already at the inspection, I'm already, we closed on this, we're pending on this, this is a new listing. So I just find that there's more content to post, and then...
But it's still extra work.
Yeah,
and you're doing
it. For sure.
Right?
But I think coming up with the idea is sometimes more draining than doing the work. So at the end of the day, how long does it take to record a little Instagram reel? When I was busy, I was doing those all the time because I constantly had clients who were giving me new questions, new ideas, new problems. And I was like, oh, this will be fun to make a video on. Whereas when there's times where I'm not really busy, like I'm trying to make more calls and things like that. So trying to actively prospect, but also I find myself starting to do other things. It's like, oh, well, I have this extra time. Let me go flip a house instead.
Yeah.
I thought that would be something that just ran on the background and it was going to be, an hour of work a week. I didn't realize I was going to be there every single day, sometimes 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, I run into people all the time that say, hey, let's make this a two-part answer from you. So, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that you flipped a home, and then do you have any homes that you have active tenants in right now, or is it just the flip?
Yeah, I have one that I have an active tenant.
So I can't tell you how many times, and all you got to do is watch enough TikTok or Instagram, like how easy is it to just flip a home, or how easy is it to just buy a rental property? Is there just passive income just coming into your mailbox? Is it as easy as they say online?
No. Well, it probably could be if you have the right team behind you. Everything's going to be a learning curve. And, working on this house flip, I had done the remodel on my primary residence, same general contractor.
Mm-hmm.
And my primary residence is really just a facelift. It's just the cosmetic stuff, really. This flip, I mean, they're changing walls, changing plumbing.
I've seen it. It's beautiful.
I mean, so much additional work. And I thought it was one of those things where I could just stand by and they were doing their work and they'd call me if they have questions and it would just be done in 8 weeks like I was promised. I didn't realize that this was going to be an everyday activity for me.
Right.
I was constantly going to be having to drop everything to go for this house to handle something. So I think if you had the right general contractor, it could be significantly less work. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is a nerve-wracking process because, you get a loan that starts charging you interest, and a lot of interest from the beginning, as you're hoping that the contractors are going to move as fast as they can. They never can. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have the best,
right,
construction team in the world. They're not going to figure out how to make this deadline. Then you put the house on the market, and you're like, God, I hope someone wants to buy it, or it could be like mine, where been sitting for now 48 days.
Yeah. I
don't think the house is bad. I think the house is great, and there's been other comps in the neighborhood to prove the value. It's just, if I launch this onto, the market, in 2021, it would have sold with 10 offers in the first day. So, now I'm watching, the interest accrue every day, watching my profit margin shrink, taking price cuts too. So, when it comes to flipping, you just have to make sure you bought it at such a low price that, I mean, the margin I'm looking for is I want to be all in at 70% of its aftermarket value. So, uh, to make an easy round number, let's say the house has an aftermarket value of $1 million, but it's going to take $200,000 to turn the junk house I'm looking at into
Right.
$1 million house. All right, then I need to buy this house for 500, put in 200, and still have $300,000 of margin. Because I got to be able to take price cuts. I have to be able to
the
pay for
interest and all
buyers
that,
incentives, all kinds of other things, and then I have to make it worth my time as well. Because if I'm going to put in this many hours, I'm not doing my regular job.
Well, and the main reason I bring it up is just as real estate professionals, lender, real estate agent, and then obviously we have contractors and everything in here. I think it's important that we are always giving our clients good information. And I'm not saying that I know anybody personally that's doing this, but this is why I mentioned social media. It's just a public service announcement to all of my clients and anybody who currently is trying to maybe get into investing, flipping, things like that. It's work. If it was that easy, everyone would do it. And so I always make sure from the financial side that as I'm talking to somebody, we're coaching them through what it realistically looks like. And as real estate agents, I'm hoping we're doing the same. And to have somebody who has the experience that you already have, right? I mean, it's what you can find as far as deals. You have the ability to look at comparable sales. You understand what loans are and everything along those lines. So from the general public, you're already a leg up and advanced. And for you to say, hey, this isn't like, shooting fish in a barrel is kind of refreshing, is all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But it's profitable. I mean, there's money in it. There's no doubt about it. No one would do it otherwise. But that was the reason I wanted to ask about that, because I haven't had anyone on here that's doing kind of as much in real estate as you are personally. So it's just good to hear that information.
And I like being able to dive into so many different facets of real estate because, I mean, to be fair, hopefully in, the next 5 years or so, I can not be taking on general clients and just work with the people I've been working with.
Right.
People I already know. I already know, what to expect from them, and no wild cannons coming into my life and ruining my sleep schedule.
Wouldn't that be nice?
But I mean, additionally, I would like to be doing more in the investments and flips and things where I can work closer with myself than, with the general public. But additionally, I mean, learning about this stuff has been super beneficial to how I can coach my clients and, different questions that they can ask me. So after doing a couple, jobs where houses have been remodeled, as well as, helping get estimates and work done for my clients as well, and referring my contractor to other clients where he's quoted them as well. Now I have a pretty good sense of what pricing looks like on things, a pretty good sense of what can and can't be done in-house, and I know who to ask if I, need help with that. So it's been really cool to be able to go to house with a buyer, and I'll say, I know you're not thinking about this right now, but if you wanted to remove this wall, expand the island here in the kitchen, then you could have a completely open floor plan. You'd be able to, and it just really gets their ideas going. And then I think they can see a lot more potential in the house. Immediately, they assume anything I suggest is going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
I'm able to give them a closer estimate of what that looks like. So I think that experience is important. And another segue I have from experience is something I've been discussing a lot with my real estate coach, which I have a coach through the Tom Ferry program.
Okay.
And I know this topic's going to be probably the main topic of the Tom Ferry Summit that's happening mid-August, is the NAR class action lawsuit regarding buyer's agent commissions.
Yeah.
Which I think this is going to be the thing that shakes up. This is going to be the biggest thing that shake up our industry, both of our industries.
Yeah. So for the people who don't know, I mean, I'm familiar with what you're talking about, but can you just kind of break it down into something a little more bite-sized?
Yeah, for sure. So since the beginning of having buyer's agents, which we've had listing agents a lot longer than we've had buyer's agents, but I mean, it's been several decades, at least 50 years or so, we've had buyer's agents. We might have to redo this if that gets completely confused.
We'll look it up.
We're going to look it up. It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
But they've always been compensated technically by the seller, using the proceeds they make from the buyer. But the seller, when you list a house, the seller's agreeing to paying the listing agent a certain fee, and then they pay the buyer's agent a certain fee. Um, so what these particular previous home buyers have sued the National Association of Realtors is about is that they believe there's no reason they had to.
The sellers. The sellers are the ones that have been suing.
Oh, gotcha. They believe that there was no reason that they had to pay these fees because someone could have bought that house without there being a buyer's agent involved. And in the world of technology, yeah, it's definitely possible. But the thing is, most of my buyers have no clue what they're doing.
Almost all of them.
And so they have to ask questions about every little thing. I can't imagine how horrible that would be for the experience for both the buyer as well as the listing agent, who in Texas, you can't represent both sides of the deal. So you have to, you're still representing your seller and giving the buyer the basic minimum information you can. So I think buyers are going to end up getting really hurt by this, but also as a realtor who works with buyers, most of my first-time buyers can't come up with an extra, let's say 3% of their home price to pay me a commission. Then they're also going to say, what makes you worth, on a $400,000 house, $12,000?
Well, for sale by owners already exist. So if a buyer wanted to go out unrepresented, they could, first and foremost. And then the thing for me that's, to me, this whole lawsuit's comical. And I'll explain exactly why. We've been running into this on the lending side of things forever, where you have origination fees versus points, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're paying an origination or a point. You're paying money, okay? And so we do deals all the time where sellers offer concessions, right? Where they basically take some of the proceeds of the sale and give it back to the buyer for them to use towards things like their closing costs or their prepaids, which is your taxes and insurance. So how is it any different if I am a individual selling my home, and we'll just use the nice round number of 6%, and a real estate agent says to me, I'm willing to sell your home for 6%. Here's what we're charging you for. It's for the marketing. It's for all of this. Obviously, there's profit associated with it. And 3% of this commission is going towards buyer's agents who have buyers to entice them to sell the home. To your point, buyers don't want to pay anything more out of pocket than they absolutely have to. So instead of offering it as a commission for the buy side, what is the difference between me as a real estate agent saying, well, we're gonna go ahead and give, or we're gonna ask that you give 3% in seller concessions, which can be used anywhere. And by anywhere, I mean maybe towards the commission of a buyer's agent. Like all we're doing is calling it something different. And the reason I say I run into this all the time is it's the equivalency of going and buying a dozen eggs at H-E-B, local grocery store, and saying, I would like to know what the actual cost of the egg is from the farmer direct versus it being here from H-E-B. And then arguing that I shouldn't have to pay the difference between what the farmer sold it to H-E-B for, but I'm standing in the grocery store right now and I want to be checked out by a cashier and I wanted it delivered. It's ridiculous. The carton of eggs costs $5. Do you want to pay it or not? There's no reason to compartmentalize where the money goes. And I'll tell you right now, and I think you would agree, and I've talked to people who have bought for sale by owner, it is highly unusual. And again, I see it more than you do, because if it's for sale by owner, sometimes you're pushed out. When we do the financing side of things, unless it is a family member, it is never a good experience. Homes don't appraise. If someone says to you, I would like to sell you my home, and let's keep real estate agents out of it so that we don't have to pay commissions, that is a direct translation of a seller saying, let's keep the real estate agent out of it so I can keep the profitability that I'm going to save. They are not doing this to help a buyer. I've never seen it unless it's a family member, even close friends. We have homes not appraised because no one knows anything about the market except for the seller knows he's got the nicest house in the neighborhood. It's a shit show. I don't know any other way to explain it. So to cut out buyers' representation is insane. It's literally insane. And again, you can do it now. You want to go unrepresented? Good luck. And so you're going to have buyers that are going to say, I require representation. And they, people right now are having trouble even coming up with enough funds for a down payment, let alone an additional amount to pay a real estate agent to represent them. And all they're going to do is it will become industry standard if, first of all, that'll never pass in a million years. But even if it did, all you're going to do is meet with your buyer's agent and you're going to say, hey, on every single offer that we write, I'm going to need you to negotiate your commission into it. You won't receive anything up front, and buyer's agents will run buyers just like they do right now, and deals won't get done unless concessions are negotiated, which ultimately are going to come from the proceeds of the sale. Mm-hmm. And we all know who pays for that, really. It's not the sellers, right? You net what you net.
Yeah.
It's financed in the loan. The buyers pay for it. But again, we can go back and forth, and 1 and 1 will never be 3.
Yeah.
Ever. And so, yeah, that lawsuit it's comical to me. It's comical to me. And I just think sellers have gotten so arrogant, kind of to the point like we talked about with sellers' agents. But it's a different market now, so I am super curious and have to have you back on after you do your Tom Ferry thing, because I can't wait to hear what everybody's saying now, because there's sellers. I'm watching sellers we just did one with 6% seller concessions.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's an FHA deal. That was the max seller concession, 6%, $15,000 on, was it 300,000 plus purchase.
Oh, that's amazing.
So if the seller is going to give away 6% seller concessions for this buyer, why in the world are we talking about how sellers are getting screwed by a buyer's agent? Makes no sense.
For sure.
Makes no sense. And if we got to change the name, we will. So it can't be origination. It's got to be points. It's got to be, you can call it whatever you want. What's it going to cost me to buy this house? And what am I going to net as a seller? Period.
Yeah, for sure. But I think what it really brings us back to is I think just like listing agents are going to present their whole explanation of what makes them, important, what makes them worth the money. I think buyer's agents
Absolutely
also need to be explaining their value to a buyer as well. Because I think a lot, a good agent's going to leave their buyers out of all of the messy, complicated stuff that they're going back and forth with the other agent and the title company and the lender. And, and we want it to be a smooth experience for the buyer. Sometimes I'll have a great, story at the closing table explaining how many hoops I jumped through before I asked them for a review. But, the thing is, from the buyer's perspective, they're like, my agent unlocked a door and, put the dollar amount that I specified on a sheet and had me sign it and then just reminded me when to do things. So,
well, and that's with any business. In fact, the real estate agent that was in here before this, we talked about it in a different light, but it's one and the same, where any buyer that says something like that needs to look at it as, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Right? Because, how many experiences have people had out there with buyer's agents where it was just an absolute nightmare? Like, if everything seems seamless, that's exactly what you want. Mm-hmm. You want it to look like all they did was open doors and sign a contract, because we all know in the industry that that's not the case. And then I can, if anybody wants a negative referral of what it looks like to have a crappy buyer's agent, believe me, I will get you on the phone with some of the clients that I've dealt with who have had some horrible real estate agents on the buy side. And that's when you do recognize all that goes on, because when someone's not doing it, mm-hmm. it's a nightmare.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, same thing with having a great lender versus using a company like Rocket or Better. I'll put them all on blast. JBL Home Loans. There's been so many just huge collapses in our transactions because of appraisals coming in by the cheapest appraiser that these companies can find, where you got someone who's coming in from Smithville to appraise a downtown Austin condo, and they don't even know how to measure a property because all they've ever measured was a piece of farmland.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's why, if I can stress anything to my clients, it's local lender that has proven track record.
Well, and I appreciate it, but let's bring it back. I mean, the reason that we're talking about this is the importance of having representation on the buy side based on a potential lawsuit that we have from sellers that are talking about suing listing agents, I believe, or I know that the lawsuits are coming from the sellers. I don't know if they're trying to sue the listing agents or if they're trying to sue NAR, right?
Yeah,
the National Association of Realtors, basically saying that they have overpaid because they could have sold their home for a lot less, that they're basically want their money back for the portion that was given to the buyer's agent. It's wild. I mean, it just, like I said, you just changed the name of it. And even in 2020, with all of the action that we had, and I know this better than anyone because I get to see the finances, the amount of people that would have not been there making multiple offers on your property, creating a buzz, driving up your profitability, the number would have been reduced by 2/3 because they would not have been able to, even write an offer. And we all know, like, again, going back to the emotional side of real estate, where multiple offers is a great situation if you're a seller because people get competitive. It drives up the price. It drives up the excitement. Now, wait a minute, someone else wants it. Now I really want it. And so if you were to reduce your buyer pool by 2/3, even in the height of the market, would you have gotten the same amount of money? I mean, again, that's a what if question, but I would venture to say no. No, I don't think you would have. And so now all you've done is rob Peter to pay Paul. You've taken away from the profitability margin because you didn't have as much traffic because you insisted on paying a lower commission, but you're just going to end up making less anyway once you net out because you sold your house for less. Oh, but you didn't have to pay that pesky buyer's agent, the guy that wanted to represent the buyer to make sure that he wasn't getting into a poor financial decision.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? Like,
for sure,
it's just
the buyer's
insane.
agent that made the seller's job a lot easier too.
Sure.
Yeah, and I mean the buyer's agent commission is part of the marketing for this property. Like, I mean, apartments have this figured out where they're saying
builders too.
And yeah, especially builders where they're putting very much less money into, their advertisement spend, and they're saying, okay, well, we'll pay agents, we'll pay locators, let's give them a commission. They'll.
By the way, money that's not paid until the deal closes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if someone was trying to sell me a lead generation system, which here comes my DMs about to get flooded, I would say I want to pay after the deal closes.
Sure.
Something like OpCity or
Zillow's doing it now.
Zillow Premier Agent if you're on their Flex program, whatever that is.
Right.
I don't want to pay up front and maybe not get anything. I mean, sure, that's what I do with a lot of my other marketing, so I can only afford to do it for so much.
Sure. But no, I understand. But yeah, I think it's wild that it's even something that's being brought to light. I mean, not only for all the reasons that I covered, but aren't a lot of these real estate agents also buyers agents as well? Like, I just really want to know. I know that technically it's coming from the sellers, but I just want to know who put these sellers on to thinking that this was a good idea. I mean, I'm sure it's some attorney in California that, is trying to just get his piece off of a class action lawsuit, but it just seems like the most ridiculous thing to me.
For sure. And yeah, I love your perspective because even if this were to pass, I don't think it would make a difference because in the end, buyers agents are still probably going to be working with these buyers.
It's like what we did with the good faith estimate.
Yeah.
You remember the good faith estimate? I know you're young.
Tell me more.
The good faith estimate is the document that we used to use back, forever basically, and then we got rid of it, and now we have the loan estimate and the CD.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's all the, and the idea behind it was that it was supposed to be a more transparent and easy to read document, which frankly, in my opinion, it's even more confusing. But the point is it's like, it's the same thing, right? So you get people who get into changing laws and businesses that they don't understand, and nothing has changed. It's all the same thing. We just kind of changed the font and moved the numbers around. But at the end of the day, if you want to, buy a house, here's what it costs, here's your charges, and here's where it's all going. Like, it didn't change anything.
Yeah, and I could see a time in the future where we slowly decrease the commission size of what buyers and sellers agents are earning, because most of these prices are still, these um, percentage rates are the same as they have been for years.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to a place like L.A. where you're selling a $30 million house. It's not a 6% fee. It's like a 2% fee. Um, could I see, as the average home becomes a lot more expensive, that we start changing the commission rate? Sure. I mean, and then again, we also, most of the time when I'm at a listing presentation and the seller wants to sell a house that's over, $700,000, I'm usually not taking it at a full fee anyway.
Right. No, and again, I mean, and those are all true statements. However, completely separate entity from are we foolish, or are we overpaying a buyer's agent to represent somebody who's purchasing this property? I mean, maybe in dollars and cents, and we can change percentages, but to completely eliminate compensating a real estate agent that's representing a buyer, it's just crazy to me. I'll even throw you or whoever a bone who's on the other side of this and say, well, what we would do is we would have buyers come in, and then we would set them up with somebody in-house as an agent for a minimal commission. And all I hear is, so let me get this straight, like somebody who's on the same team as the seller with the same vested interest, who is referred to them by, the same people, and is blatantly being compensated next to nothing, that's who's going to represent me. That's ridiculous. And of course, you could say, well, then maybe you should save more money so that you can pay a buyer's agent on your own. And I'm like, well, now I'm out of the game.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the exact same argument. So now, as a seller, because I know, again, this is where this is all coming from, you want to reduce your buyer pool, reduce traffic, reduce hype on your property, which we all know is ultimately going to reduce profitability, so that you can go, well, I didn't pay that pesky buyer's agent.
And
dumb.
That's exactly what for sale by owners are saying.
Dumb.
Yeah.
And
that's what people who are selling by owner in 2021 were saying too. They're like, well, I mean, yeah, I could have sold for a couple more $1,000, but I mean, at least it didn't have to pay the real estate commissions.
Right. It's like PMI. I see that a lot too, where people, they get so fixated on PMI. I mean, certain situations where people are putting down like only 10 or 15%. I've seen situations where PMI is like $40. And I will watch people not bat an eye over the taxes that are increasing, which goes to no benefit of you. Not bat an eye on their insurance premium, which, I mean, is only beneficial in the event of you paying a, deductible. And then even with interest, there are banks out there right now that if you're putting down like 15%, they'll eliminate your PMI because they'll charge you like a quarter of a percent higher on the rate. And people would rather pay $50 extra to the bank for interest than $50 for PMI. And the mortgage insurance in most cases is going to come off anyway. But to hell with that PMI. And I feel like that's the same situation here, where it's like, we just don't want to pay these buyer's agents. Like, it makes no sense to me.
It's the same mentality as the people who shop at CarMax for a car. It's like they have a no negotiation policy. You see the price, you pay that price, no additional fees. Well, you're paying more for the car because the fees are already included in it.
Right.
Which makes you more happy. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and again, that's just what it is. It's like, it's just compartmentalizing where your money goes. I see situations with, seller concessions that we talked about. I've literally had people say like, well, I've got $3,000 in seller concessions. My closing costs are $5,000. So what's my $3,000 going to? It's like, well, it's going to your overall cost. Yeah, but which ones? It's like, are you serious right now?
Who cares?
Right, exactly. Like, well, I want the 3,000 to be split up, 2,500 to my taxes, 300 to my insurance, and then I'll pay the rest out of pocket. And thinking, okay.
I've had a client before that said the seller's giving me back $5,000 in credit. They're like, can I just take that as a check and I'll still pay the same $77,000 out of pocket, and instead of paying $72,000 out of pocket? was like, dude, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, we'll give it to you, and then you give it back to us.
Whatever makes you happy. That's
yeah. Well, again,
maybe
that
it just feels good to
that
get the check.
compartmentalization of money when like what's the bill cost at the end is really all that matters.
Oh, then it goes back to the restaurants where your waiters are paid $15 an hour, and the tip is already included.
Yeah,
I personally love when gratuity is already included.
as long as I'm made known of it.
You want to be made known at the start of the meal?
No.
Oh.
In the end.
Yeah, for sure.
In the end, I've definitely got.
Just letting you know. Do you want to hear our specials? By the way, gratuity is included, so don't treat me well.
In the end, I'd like to know. I don't like being charged gratuity when no one says anything, and then I'm looking and I'm about to tip appropriately, and I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, I like when it's already included because I haven't personally calculated how much that meal costs yet, and then I'm like, okay, whatever. I've already looked at the number.
Yeah.
Cool, no additional tip.
Right. It's like, wait a second. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. Well, anything you want to cover as far as asking a lender? You have any questions for me? Anything that you were thinking about when you were heading here?
Ooh.
You can say no.
No, I wanted to pick your brain more in the podcast room.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long have we been running the podcast? By we, I mean you.
Oh, me. So we started doing. The room and everything was set up the week after the 4th of July. So like the 4th was what, a Tuesday. It was on a weird day today. So we really kicked it off on like the 7th. The concept of it started in October of 2022, and that's when we had you on, and we were renting space, and we were doing all of that, and. To be honest, I think the biggest obstacle that we run into with the podcast stuff is we want to get the content out right away. Some of the things that we're talking about are not going to be relevant here in the next couple of weeks, and certainly not in the next couple of months. So it was really just about having the control of it, and I wanted to make sure it was done correctly. I didn't want to do what I consider to be something where we kind of like, well, let's do like a quarter of what we need to really make it everything that it should be, and then we'll start to build it as we move forward. So kind of just went all in. I mean, for those of you that can't see it, the only thing I could have, we literally spared no expense. The only thing that could be done differently is we could have gotten a little crazier with the room itself that you don't even see on film, but we're renting this space. So I thought, well, that doesn't really make any sense.
We could be taking shots of hot sauce while we do this.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's 3:00 on a Wednesday. So for me, the next one you do, make it on a Thursday or even a Friday, a little closer to the 5:00 time frame, and I'd be happy to have some cocktails and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, putting it all together was. It was tedious, and there was some trial and error, but we've been really rocking out now for about 2.5 weeks. I think your guest number over 10, under 15. So the content started kind of rolling out about a week and a half ago, and the whole idea is to get people on here, talk about business ideas, building business, and truthfully, I'm trying to build, in addition to like just really doing like a pay it forward thing, I'm really trying to build like a group of like-minded business owners and have this as a space that people can use to promote themselves. Because what I recognize is that good business owners, they understand, I think an okay business owner is good at their job and cares about their clients. That right there, like, you're okay in my book. But then if you're really concerned about your clients, you're really good at what you do, and then in addition to that, you recognize that like there's so many facets in any business, right? Like if you're a real estate agent, you have to work with a title company, you have to work with a lender, a home inspector. A lot of times there's contractors, and good people that are good in their business are good at what they do, and then they know the people who are also good at the things that they need to kind of sub out, right? And that's who I'm looking for. I want people to come on here to showcase themselves. I want people to do more than just the technical part of their job. And I feel confident that doing things that we're doing right now and meeting those people is going to kind of create a good core group for me. And the reality is those people that do everything that I just said also understand the importance of referring business to one another, right? And it just becomes I'm trying to build a business cult.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, every photographer I've worked with on my listings has been like brand new to the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them have thanked me for all of the other business that they've gotten after I've posted their pictures. And, you know, my drone videographer, I just had him at one of my listings 2 days ago. And I was the first person who gave him a chance to do some practice rounds. And he's like, yeah, now I'm working for a couple builders. I have 3 other agents. I got a couple gigs with some restaurants. And I'm like,
well, he's a guest I want to have in here. I mean, we, obviously for me, selfishly, real estate agents is a great opportunity for me to connect with them. But, we've had a builder in here. We've had a financial advisor in here. We had a garage door company in here. I would love an opportunity. We had a title company in here. I would love to get, like a photographer, especially that's doing drone work in here, because I've got a ton of questions that I know a lot of real estate agents have asked, and I think it'd be great as far as promotion, and it's good stuff. Shake it up.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. But yeah, I'm super proud of every partner that I work with. And I tell my clients, like, if you want to use the full umbrella of everyone I can refer to you, we're going to have a great experience.
Amen.
All of these people I've tried multiple times, and the ones that didn't work out have been replaced.
Right. No, I mean, of course, trial and error.
And, and then people move on to different industries. I loved the previous lender I was working with. He moved on. Thankfully, I already had you in the back pocket, and I was able to swap
out. I've been chasing you around.
And it's like I want to keep working with the good people.
Right.
And if the good people decide to start dropping the ball, then we reevaluate. Or if, the good people move on to other things. People who are great at their jobs are also probably great at so many other things that it's usual. People move around. I've seen so many realtors come out of corporate business and go back into it after.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I like having a great relationship with the people I work with that are on my, overall team. Because that way I know I can text them for anything and they get back to me always positively. I love the cleaning company I work for. Work with? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I work for them. Work with. I employ. Photographers, lender. I use WFG title for every transaction I can. Everyone there has been just so solid.
Awesome.
So yeah, I like to keep it all within the group, and then.
No, I love it. Well, if there's anything else you want to cover, let me know. Otherwise, I finish these off with you kind of looking at the camera and doing your 2-minute elevator pitch that we can make sure it's under 2 minutes, by the way, so we can turn it into a short. So it's up to you, man. If you're gonna run it, go for it.
2-minute elevator pitch. My name's Chase Cangelosi. I own Chasing Realty Group with All City Real Estate. If you're looking to purchase or sell a home, specifically in South Austin, going down to about Buda, Kyle, those are my favorite areas to work. I also do a lot of work in Manor and Pflugerville as well. But I'm active anywhere in the Austin area. If you're looking to sell or invest or flip or just need a contact for anything in that realm, I would love to help you.
There it is. Awesome. You got a voice like butter, man.
Thank you.
I hear all these voices all the time, and everybody's different.
Have you heard my radio commercial?
No, I don't. It
ends with my jingle. If it's a realtor you want, get a realtor that rocks. Chasing Realty. Licensed sponsored by All City Real Estate.
Now, we are definitely cutting that. I love it. All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.